Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to the May meeting of the Oak Ridge City Council. We're glad that you are with us this afternoon or this evening. First, before I call on Matt Gaskins to lead us in our invocation, I want us to all stand for a moment of silence in memory of our friend, former councilman and colleague, Willie Golden. Thank you. Matt? Invocation will be led by Matt Gaskins, chaplain with the Oak Ridge Police Department.
All right, great to be here with all you esteemed councilmen and women, and I appreciate you all letting me come here today. This week means a little bit more to the police department than normal. Obviously, we lost two officers, one in November, Officer Marvell Moore, Lieutenant Moore, and then the following month with Sergeant Barry Bunch. And so anyway, yeah, it means a little bit more. All right, everyone, let's bow our heads. Lord God, thank you for this day. Thank you for each one of these people that represent our city and that have our best interests at heart. We ask that you guide them and direct them throughout all their time that they serve here. We thank you for their service. Lord, we just lift up Lieutenant Moore's family and also Sergeant Bunch's family. And may we never forget their service. We just thank you, Lord, and we just ask that you, again, guide this council, help them to get our city's business taken care of, and we just thank you. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Councilman Sean Gleason. Mr. Gleason.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Mayor Pro Tem Dotson.
Here.
Councilmember Gleason.
Here.
Mayor Gooch.
Here.
Councilmember Hammond. Here. Councilmember Hensley. Here. Councilmember Hope. Councilmember Smith. Here.
Okay. First item of business, Madam Clerk.
Under proclamations and public recognitions, we have a proclamation designating May 11th through 17th, 2025 as Police Week and May 15th, 2025 as Police Memorial Day.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Captain Smith, Chief Smith, would you please come forward, and the proclamation will be presented by Councilman Hammond.
Always a privilege and pleasure to present this to you, both the work that you're doing in the city, and God bless you. God bless the team. Thank you for all that you do.
Thank you, sir.
Chief, could you remind all of us about the service on the 15th?
9 o'clock on the 15th at Bissell Park, in the covered area at the stage, so we're ready for rain. And the Lieutenant Governor will be the guest speaker that day.
At 9 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
This Thursday.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Under special reports, we have receiving for the record of the Rhone Alliance Annual Report, and Mr. Snow with the Rhone Alliance is here.
Mr. Snow, good evening.
Good evening, I'm Justin Snow, I'm the president and CEO of the Rhone Alliance. I want to start tonight by thanking the City of Oak Ridge and Oak Ridge City Council for the support and partnership with the Rhone Alliance. Tonight, I'm pleased to present the 2024 Rhone Alliance Annual Report. It was a great year for Rhone County, and we have a lot to be proud of. So I'm going to hit a few highlights from the report. In tourism, we launched a new marketing campaign called Win in Rhone, with new marketing materials that included updated pictures and videos, along with new pad maps and visitor guides. The Chamber had more than 30 ribbon cuttings last year, and we had our first ever Jeep Festival, a festival that brought in more than 200 Jeeps and 800 attendees. The Tennessee Bass Nation and Youth State Open at Tom Fuller Park in Rockwood attracted over 250 boats. Our first ever Industry Education Summit called Connect Rhone was a great success. The event was held at the Emergency Response Training Facility in Oak Ridge. Over 60 industry and educational leaders met in October to discuss workforce challenges and successes. One stat that I'm especially proud of, we've had 11 consecutive years of positive net job growth in the county. It was a great year for ECD. Last April, ProtoMet announced it would expand its manufacturing operations in Rockwood, investing $25 million and creating 250 jobs. And of course, the highlight of our year occurred in September when Orano announced its plans to build its next uranium enrichment facility here in Oak Ridge. And this facility would create over 300 good-paying jobs and stand to be the largest investment in Tennessee's history. So that concludes my report. I also did include a copy of Site Selector magazine. So in January, we paid to have a couple of ads and articles run, and it focuses on Oak Ridge, Rhone County. There's a TVA intelligence report, and there's also a good article in there about TriSoX, Kairos Power, and Orano. So that concludes my report, and I'll answer any questions that y'all might have.
Thank you, Mr. Snow.
Thank you.
Appreciate your hard work. Next agenda item is the consent agenda. We've had 4 items to be removed from the consent agenda. Item D, item L, yes, I'm sorry. Item L, item P, and item Q. And those will be moved to the regular resolution at the start of the resolution section. All right, is there a motion on the remaining items on the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. And the items on the consent agenda are adopted. That takes us to public hearings and first reading of ordinances. Madam Clerk?
An ordinance to amend Title 13 titled Property Maintenance Regulations of the Code of Ordinances, City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, by creating a new Chapter 7 titled Slum Clearance in order to reduce the hazards of fire, accidents, or other calamities, lack of ventilation, light or sanitary facilities, or due to other conditions rendering such dwellings unsafe or unsanitary, or dangerous or detrimental to the health, safety, and morals, or otherwise inimical to the welfare of the residents of Oak Ridge, and providing for a penalty for enforcement.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Rackard?
Yes, so this is a new provision in the city code. It's not a new provision in the state statute, and the city does already have provisions for enforcing unfit structures, but what this does is it allows the city an additional enforcement mechanism for collection of the reimbursement of cost. So it allows the city to be able to place those costs on the property tax bill. So that is why the city is looking at adopting this one. So it is an addition to the enforcement mechanisms that the city already has. And we talked about this at Budget and Finance last week, and Budget and Finance was supportive of the addition of this item.
Are there any questions for Ms. Rackard. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, reading over this today, one thing I thought to ask that I didn't ask at Budget and Finance is, why didn't we know about this law before?
I think the city was aware of the slum clearance provisions, but not necessarily aware of the ability to place it on the tax roll. Because there is reference in property maintenance to one section of the slum clearance law, but not the full adoption,
Okay,
so.
okay, thanks.
And one thing that we did talk about at Budget and Finance, and it's not specifically mentioned in the memo, this does apply to residential and commercial property.
Right. All right, any other questions or comments?
Quick question.
Mr. Hammond?
Does this, and I can't remember the conversation, but does this provision become equally applied as part of the process? So like at a certain point, for anybody, it'll become a part of the property taxes? Or is it decision-based or discretionary based on, we'll do it in this case, but maybe not this one? Can you talk about process with regards to how this might be enforced?
Yeah, the city would have the option to either just place it on, as a lien on the property, or to place that as a collection with the property tax bill, or to sue for collection. So, but my guess is we're probably gonna, maybe make the request for the payment, one time, file the lien and place it on the property tax bill.
Okay.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah, but reading the ordinance, it's clear that there'd be a lot of options for appeals. This is not something that the city could do without due process.
Right, there is still a due process provision, it's just administrative, not judicial.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, we're on the board. This is adoption on first reading. Ayes 7, no nays, and it is approved on first reading. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
We have an ordinance to amend ordinance number 27-85 titled A Personnel Plan for Employees of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, as amended by replacing all references to Personnel Director with Human Resources Director to reflect the change in job title for this position, and by replacing all references to Personnel Department with Human Resources Department to reflect the change in name for this department.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Alt?
Yes, thank you, everyone. We previously discussed this at a work session, but this is an item to amend both my job title as well as make alterations throughout the personnel ordinance to change Personnel Director to Human Resources Director. That brings us into more modern nomenclature. I think I explained at the last work session, I've gone to some career fairs and told people, yeah, I'm the Personnel Director, and these college students look at me and they say, what does that mean? And then I say I work in HR, and they're like, oh, okay, I get it now. So this is just to help make us a little more modern, a little more up to date.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Alt? Seeing none, the matter is for us is on first reading. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none, and it is approved on first reading. Next item, Madam Clerk.
Under final adoption of ordinances, we have an ordinance abandoning a portion of right-of-way of Badger Avenue upon certain conditions being met by the adjacent property owner.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Blasius.
This comes to you as a request from the developers, R&R Enterprises, for the property that was purchased at ORIU campus by the same folks that are doing the Main Street lofts. They are requested this as a requirement for their financing through HUD that the properties be contiguous. So by turning the street over to them, that allows that to be one lot. They will continue. They will have complete maintenance responsibility, but it will stay open as a public right-of-way with no restriction.
Thank you, Mr. Blasius. Are there any questions? This is on second and final reading.
One comment.
Mr. Hensley.
I spoke with Mr. Chen, and based on a letter that we got about preserving the old trees, the older trees, he said he was going to do the best he could because he realized it added value to the property.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, the motion is to approve, and we're on the board. Ayes 7, no nays. And it is approved on final reading, second and final reading. All right, next item, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend ordinance number 2 titled The Zoning Ordinance of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee by amending the zoning map which is made a part of the ordinance by changing the zoning district of Roane County Tax Map Parcel 039064.00 with an address of 350 Powerhouse Road containing approximately 375 acres from FIR Federal Industry and Research District to IND1 Industrial District with a 600-foot buffer zone as RG1 Residential Open Space and Reserve District and Area 3 and 4 zone as RG1 Residential Open Space and Reserve District. All is shown on the attached exhibit, and a public hearing is required.
I understand that. Before we do that, we have received a memo at my request from the city manager on a report of the outstanding code violations for the applicant. I mentioned these at our meeting in April. I feel that it would not be wise to take up any final action on this rezoning until and unless all code violations are remedied or alleviated, and the major issues are still unresolved, including cleaning up the debris, plumbing, restroom facilities being unfit for occupancy, and heating inside the building, et cetera. There is a fire hazard analysis that was received on March the 18th. I don't know that we have a report on that. But my motion is until these violations are remedied to the satisfaction of city staff, that this matter be deferred.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, we're on the board.
This is to defer, correct?
Motion to defer. Ayes 7, no nays, and the matter is deferred. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the right place. Okay. So we're under resolutions. We're back to the items that were removed. Item D is the first one. A resolution approving a contract with the Tennessee Department of Transportation for maintenance of state highways within the corporate city limits, whereby the city is reimbursed by TDOT for said services in the amount of $171,621.07 for fiscal year 2026.
I'll call on Ms. Smith for her comment or question.
Yes, I asked to have this removed from the consent agenda because I wanted the community to be aware of what we're doing with this contract. There's been a lot of confusion lately about the relationship between the city and the state highway department in managing certain streets through our city. And this contract is something we enter into every year, where the Illinois Avenue, Oak Ridge Turnpike, and Edgemore Road are state highways through our city, but the city contracts with TDOT to do basically routine maintenance on those roads. So you'll see city crews out there patching potholes, mowing the grass, and various other kinds of routine maintenance activities. But these are still state roads. So when a big project comes along like repaving, it is a state project, not something the city has any control over. I think there's been a lot of confusion about that, and I thought that this contract very well illustrates what the relationship between the city and the state is. And hopefully we'll reduce confusion the next time there's concern about something that's happened on a road.
The Illinois Avenue project is a one-time repaving, totally separate from this contract. This contract is annual. It will always come back each year, and it'll do just what you said. It'll allow us to take care of routine matters. The paving project is totally separate. It's one time, and contractually, we actually don't have any control over it. So you're correct. Two totally separate items.
Any additional questions or comments for Mr. Flynn? Seeing none, the motion, did we get a motion?
No.
Motion to approve?
No.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. And the resolution is approved. Thank you all. Next resolution will be item L, I believe.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I've got to get it up on the screen first. Just one back. Okay. A resolution awarding a contract to CMG HealthWorks, Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to provide employee medical evaluations, drug and alcohol testing, and hazmat medical testing services for the Personnel Department in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for fiscal year 2026.
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Smith?
I had a question. The memo says that that CMG submitted the best proposal for all services, but it didn't explain how that was evaluated, whether it was cost or qualifications or what. So I was looking for some information on how it was determined to be best.
Yeah, certainly. So we received 3 total bids. One of the bids did not meet all of the criteria we were looking for. They did not provide all the services we were looking for, so they were eliminated. That left 2 bids, and CMG HealthWorks and NetGain. CMG HealthWorks was significantly lower in cost, as well as they've been our provider for quite some time. We have a long history with CMG HealthWorks. We felt like it was best to continue that relationship, especially given the lower cost.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Alt? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none, and it is approved. Thank you, Mr. Alt. Next item is item P. Just a second.
If you'll look on page,
Wait just a second.
A resolution adopting the bylaws and rules and procedures for the Arts, Culture, and History Alliance Advisory Board.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Hensley?
if you'll look at the bylaws, Arts, Culture, and History Alliance on page 2, right at the top, talking about members, says the advisory board will be appointed upon confirmation by City Council, the city's poet laureate and honorary city historian. He's no longer the honorary here at City Historian.
I can correct that. That's just a language thing. We can fix that.
So I'm easy.
Yeah, that's easy. We'll fix that.
All right, any other comments or questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Hensley, for making that correction. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. It is approved. Next item is item Q. Madam Clerk?
A resolution to write off court costs and fines for citations that are over 10 years old and to authorize the city managers to establish debt forgiveness programs as he determines are in the city's best interest.
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Hensley, that's yours also.
Yes. I'd just like to hear a brief summary of the thinking behind this, and my question comes around that if there's a traffic stop by somebody who's recidivism, who has a repeat offender, will these still show up in their record, or will this waive the whole thing?
Okay. So what this resolution is going to do is for all of the debt in city court for the citations that are older than 10 years, which we can no longer sue for collection on because they're outside the statute of limitations. So those will now be written off. Because otherwise, we're just solely being voluntary payment would be the way we could take it. Or if one of those individuals happened to have something in the future where the state suspended their license and they came in to try and get their license cleared, then we could say, oh, well, you have to pay your old debt. Those would be the only circumstances that the city could collect on those. So on that list, you'll notice like some of them go back to 1986 when the city had dual jurisdiction concurrent with general session. So we're just writing off those debts to get our new system good for when they swap over to OmniCourt.
Thank you, but is the offense written off?
So so it still will show on somebody's, it still is on their record. So if someone were to come, it doesn't disappear. Just the fine and the court cost is written off, waived.
So if they get stopped for speeding again and they had a speeding citation back there 10 years ago, it's still going to show up?
They're
Okay.
Yeah, so if they end up, so for example, if somebody ends up with something with the state of Tennessee that they need to have cleared off, and this one pops up and the state says you need to clear this, they can come down to city court, and city court will give them something that says this has been waived.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Seeing none, it is approved. And we are now on resolutions. Madam Clerk?
A resolution awarding a contract to East Tennessee Human Resources Agency for operation and management of the city's public transit system in an amount not to exceed $230,000 contingent upon the city's receipt of grant funding from the Tennessee Department of Transportation for partial funding of the city's operating expenses for the transit program.
Move for approval. Second. Moved and seconded. Ms. Moore?
Good evening. As you know, this is for the approval of the operation of the transit program. It's been to work session on April 29th and budget and finance on May 8th. Our current contract for operation of the system is expiring on June 30th. So the city released an RFP, and the public has been involved in that process. There's an ad hoc transportation study group who has informed us with the DAB and the SAB and has held public meetings on the matter and brought some things to the city staff attention that we were able to incorporate into the RFP to improve the program. For example, we intend to hold quarterly performance meetings with the transit provider. We would like to see an improved mechanism for rider feedback. Previously, those really didn't go to the city. They only went to Ethra alone. So when we were able to hear about those from the public, that was kind of eye-opening and allowed us to come up with improvements in the RFP that we'd like to see. The funding for this is through a state grant. We don't yet have our allocation letter through the state. As I had mentioned in Budget and Finance, though, I have reached out to our program contact, and they anticipate our funding amount to stay the same. So it's $213,000, $213,125. That is an 80% match. So the local match will be funded primarily from the restricted use state shared petroleum products tax. And our contract would be for 1 year with 9 renewal options. Do you have any questions?
I have one.
Mr. Tinsley?
Yeah, there was another vendor, and I knew they were more expensive, but what were some of the reasons other than that they were rejected?
The other, am I on?
You're on.
Yeah. The other RFP applicant was LAZ Parking.
Yeah.
They have a history of doing parking and grew into valet services, and they primarily operate fixed route shuttle services for universities and hospitals. And they didn't seem to address in their proposal on-demand, door-to-door services.
Thank you.
Mr. Hammond?
The couple quick questions. One, this is to negotiate a contract, right? This isn't to approve of one that's already been negotiated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then you noted that there was quite a bit of public engagement, and you got some feedback that you look forward to bringing into those negotiations. Can you touch on what some of those things were in particular?
Yeah, so I mentioned the quarterly performance meetings, having an improved mechanism for rider feedback. In Ethra's response, they said that they were ready to hit the road with some software improvements, which is a relief. I think they're pretty behind on the times for those things, so,
I'm going to interrupt you. If you'll just slow down just a minute. Second. They said what? That they were
They're-
ready to hit the road?
sorry, yeah. They've been talking for some time about software improvements, and they're ready to implement those.
It's about time.
Yeah.
Thank you. I apologize.
When
We
you said
will-
software improvements, those are things like apps maybe, and
Yeah.
ways for people to more directly engage that
And
are
that's
different than
something-
what they've had.
I'm not exactly sure what all the software improvements entail, so we'll learn more about that, but that's something we'll include in our contract.
Okay. Thank you.
I would add, we were also asked to try to reduce the time. It's a 24-hour notice, I believe now, to reduce that time frame. So there's a whole list of things that we've got that we will try to work into the contract from feedback that we've heard, and we got some really great feedback from users.
Sure, and as best you can tell, sounds like it, but I just want to make sure I confirm. As best you can tell, they've been open and amenable to those things that you've brought in terms of, hey, here's some feedback that we've gotten.
Well, we really haven't had that conversation with them since then, but we, as Kendall said, there were certain things that they were already headed down that road from previous conversations. I don't think we've talked about shortening the time frame. So we've covered some of those things, but not all of them. So, until this is approved, we really didn't feel it appropriate to sit down and have that conversation.
Sure, and we're appropriating the funds to execute the contract. Will you be in a position does this authorize you to go into the negotiations, finalize the contract, and move forward? Or will the contract have to come back here in some form of the process before being executed?
The contract does not come back to city council for approval under this resolution. So if that's something that you're wanting, you'll need to amend that. So what we did is we authorized the city manager to negotiate the terms of that agreement within, we did the RFP. The RFP had a contract associated. There's a lot of feedback. We expected there might be some feedback from city council as well as the public tonight too. So we sort of built that into the resolution as well, that the manager could implement that public input that was given tonight too, in addition to the public input he's already received into those negotiations with Ethra.
Okay, I guess I'd be interested in, and I don't know what the timeline is relative to what you've got, but I certainly would be interested in sort of before the contract is executed, having some clarity on how much of that feedback you were able to integrate into those conversations, what you weren't able to integrate into those conversations, and sort of how that turned out, so to speak. Can you speak to the possibility of making that happen? I don't want to adversely impact the process, but at the same time, I want to have some sense of how much feedback was integrated into the conversations and those negotiations.
We can certainly get a memorandum out to you all before any action is taken, just letting you know kind of where that is and receive feedback. I would love to have feedback, so we can do that.
Okay, so I'm open to approving this with the understanding that a memo
Right.
will be coming to us. Okay.
All right, any other questions? Mr. Dotson, yes.
Yeah, I'm just going to be really specific on this, Kendall. With regards to some of the recommendations to council from Strong and United, one of the things that surfaced, and I mentioned this the last time we were here, and that's a mobile application for riders to access transit information, track vehicle, plan trips, and receive updates. A lot of repair people do that currently. This is one way that we can stay up with the times and be able to track where that person or that transit vehicle is at all times and be ready for it. So I think that would alleviate some of the disagreements, if you will, with regards to when are they going to be there or when they're not going to be there. It's just something that we should do now. So personally, I would like to see that in that contract. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah, one thing I'd like to see, having reviewed the proposal, is a fairly clear explanation of how they're going to operate under this contract. That was something they were asked to provide, and they did to some extent. But the description was very heavily based on how they operate the ETHRA service and not how they operate the City of Oak Ridge Transit. So I'd like to make sure that when we have a contract, it includes language that's fairly specific to the city and not to the ETHRA program generically. That was, and that applies to a variety of different aspects of the program, but that was a concern.
Mr. Teeman, you have any more comments right now? All right. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, is there anyone wishing to speak on this issue? If you will give us your name and address for the record, please, ma'am.
You don't have to touch anything.
Oh, thank
Yeah,
you.
you're good.
All right, no microphone. I usually don't need one. Marion Wildgruber, 122 Connors Drive, Oak Ridge. Y'all have heard from me a lot in the last few years, and that's because I am privileged and have the opportunity to appear in person at these meetings. Despite my disability, I use Oak Ridge Transit, but I have personal options for transportation in the evenings. A lot of people who use Oak Ridge Transit do not. And despite that, the City Council and other board meetings have not made any effort to include these people via hybrid so they can make comments. So I feel humbled and honored to give voice to those people who cannot be here tonight. My experience has been over the last 5 years working with Mobility United and with the Disability Advisory Board to try and improve the contract, working with the City Manager Task Group as well. I've donated many, many hours to doing this. The one thing that I would really advocate for strongly, and that is not in the RFP, I recognize it has nothing to do with ETHRA, but that is encourage the city to have someone on staff that is going to spend time managing this program and responsible for this program. When I first tried to find information out about Oak Ridge Transit 5 years ago, it took me 2 months and 5 different people in 3 different departments to find out there was no one in the city that was responsible for, interested in, or knew about this program other than the finance department that handled the funds. And that is inexcusable. This city is managing for people and responsible for people more than just developers and contractors and companies that are wishing to come and do business in Oak Ridge. We're responsible for those people who are vulnerable, who are needy, and needing of services in Oak Ridge to live their daily lives. Transportation is absolutely fundamental to people with disabilities, people who are low income, and seniors to get to medical appointments, get to employment, get to school, shopping, and have a minimum of social engagements, none of which can happen on weekends or Sundays with Oak Ridge Transit. So a person who manages the program keeps ETHRA from having compliance problems, which I had to deal with, both with city management and with the ETHRA director. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wildgruber.
Yes, I said.
Thank you.
Yes, my name is Margaret Jones. I am confined to a wheelchair. I don't have a wheelchair van. and my son, who live with me, is not physical able to help me into his car. But I don't use Oak Ridge Transit. I would like to rely on it, but I cannot. I don't have the resorts that some people in wheelchairs have. It overcomes the problem with the current transit systems. I haven't been able to use Oak Ridge Transit in the past because it has been unreliable, means I don't rely on it, comes on the time that it comes early. And I expect it before I was ready, or don't come at all. Communication problems, the dispatcher don't correct records to pick up me when I request, like my doctors. The driver treats me poorly, meaning they give me a hard time. Unlike some others in wheelchairs, I don't have family or friends who they have free time or flexible during work days to take me where I need to go, like to the doctors, because my family and friends are working at jobs that will not allow them to take a break to rescue me if the bus doesn't come when unexpectedly, leave me stranded for hours until they get off of work. Unlike some others in wheelchairs, I don't have family or friends with a vehicle that can get me, or if they have the right kind of cars. They don't have the strength to help me transfer from the chair to the car. As a result of not being able to rely on Oak Ridge Transit, I can't make my doctor's appointment as soon as I should. Now, I schedule them when I can arrange for a friend or family to take me, which is usually not as soon as I can make the appointments to protect my health. This is so frustrating. I hope the Oak Ridge Transit will be better soon, and if I can hear this is a reliable treatment their customer will, I will be thrilled that I will be able to use it.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Would you give us your address again, please, ma'am? Your address, could you give us your address, please?
I'm 108 Pembroke Road in Oak Ridge, Tennessee.
108 Pembroke. Thank you, ma'am.
Been a double.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
I'm Robert Walker. I live at 107 Deerfield Lane in Oak Ridge. I urge the City Council to unanimously support a new transit contract that puts riders at the center of the performance evaluation. For residents using the transit service, access to mobility is a lifeline to reach scheduled medical appointments. Having reliable, on-time transit service is a vital part of modern civic life. The time may come when we all need this essential service. At relatively low cost to the city, this local transit service provides invaluable transportation for Oak Ridge residents. Three critical success factors are identified. One is contract administration. The city really has to appoint a staff person to administer this contract and be the person that actively engages with rider feedback. We can't pretend like there's complete satisfaction in its on-time service. That's just not true. Goal setting, performance, monitoring on-time performance is the single critical success factor that will determine rider satisfaction and whether riders can depend on the transit service to reliably make their appointments. This critical metric depends 100% on the software used by the operator and how skilled the transit service employees are in using the software. Technology exists with Lyft, Uber, and UPS to permit the operator and riders to monitor the location of vehicles and to have accurate data recording of pickup and drop-off times. This is not new technology. This information is essential to accurately monitor performance. It is important that the transit operator remain focused on improving performance. I strongly recommend the city consider a positive incentive system which matches compensation with performance. If a significant portion of the budget is reserved for operator compensation based on actual performance, the operator will focus on performance. If they get everything, their eyes off the ball. We got to keep them focused on the ball. Software data collection and performance reporting. The city should carefully review the selection of software to ensure that the software will be capable of producing timely, accurate data. If we don't have data, we don't know the score of the game. We don't know how we're doing. Operator staff should be required to be fluent in the use of selected software, preferably having received a software proficiency certification demonstrating fluency.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Thank you.
My name is Tom Burns. I live at 447 East Drive, Oak Ridge. I'm here in memory for my late friend Darlene Thurman. Some of you may remember Darlene. Darlene was an amputee, and she was restricted to a wheelchair. Darlene was an advocate for herself and others in Oak Ridge who were unable to walk or drive. People who only dream of using softball fields and pickleball courts. People who in their waking hours struggle to move through our city in wheelchairs over unpassable sidewalks and through unsafe intersections, and people who are carried on Oak Ridge Transit buses that require reservations 24 hours in advance, buses that might not come on time and don't operate on Sunday or in the evenings when important civic events are scheduled, like city council meetings. For all my fellow citizens who cannot drive, like my friend Marion, and for all of us who are currently able-bodied and car-enabled but may not be so lucky tomorrow, I'm asking the City Council to act with resolve to seize the opportunity afforded by the excellent, responsive, and groundbreaking work of the city manager and his staff on the newly designed Oak Ridge Transit contract. It will change the way the city manages the service, a service that is critical to all those in our city who cannot walk, like my friends Luna and Margaret, both of whom, just like us, need to get to work, obtain medical care, shop for essentials, and participate in civic life. I'm asking City Council to clearly and firmly direct the city manager to negotiate and manage the Oak Ridge Transit contract as the important asset that it is. Ethra gave the city a price based on the requirements in the RFP, and the city should not give away anything during negotiations. Furthermore, with close and attentive management, the new contract, which purchases rides, not service hours, can motivate the operator to expand operating hours even more to sell more rides than is required by the new contract, and to respond to ride requests with shorter notice than 24 hours. Because if the bus is just sitting there and someone calls up 30 minutes and says, I need a ride, they can give them that ride and earn the pay. This will further enhance the service and expand our opportunities for Oak Ridgers. For all the taxpayers in the city, I'm asking for fiscal responsibility. The amount of city's taxpayers' money at stake is small but not insignificant. It should not be wasted, handed over to an operator without accountability for performance. This requires the city performs meaningful and frequent oversight of the provider based on accurate and timely performance data and customer rider feedback. In other words, comments and complaints. Those in business know that what matters is measured. We must begin to meaningfully measure performance of the operator of this essential service. For all those in the city who bring their moral centers to the public sphere, I'm asking you for moral responsibility. Our neighbors who cannot walk or drive depend on this service to meet essential needs, as well as to live their lives as fully and meaningfully as they might, as we would want, for ourselves, our aging parents, and our children with physical disabilities. It is right and just for the city council, city manager, and all Oak Ridge citizens to care how well this essential public service performs and to try to make it better. Not only do I think a new and improved Oak Ridge Transit will promote the quality of life for all citizens in Oak Ridge, it's the right thing to do, but it won't happen unless it is not actively and seriously managed by the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Dotson.
I know we're talking about a contract now, but one of the things I would like to do, Ms. Moore, is let's look at the possibility, and Mr. Heeman, of dedicating some sort of personnel within the city to address some of the concerns that you've heard tonight. That's a directive I would give to the city manager.
Time for one more citizen. Hey, thank you. My name, am I close enough to the mic? Okay. My name is Linda Nicholas, and I live on Georgia Avenue. And I have been an Oak Ridge Transit rider for about 10 years now. When we moved to Oak Ridge 40 years ago, I was able-bodied. I drove my kids everywhere. Well, disability has a way of striking anybody in this room at any time. Any one of us can find ourselves in a position of not being able to drive, and it is life-changing. And for me, Oak Ridge Transit has been a godsend to be able to go to chemotherapy for cancer treatments, to go to the grocery store, but more importantly, for being out in the world, in the community, being engaged. You know, I'm more than just I have more than medical needs. I have a need to go to storytelling festivals and city council meetings, which are very difficult for me to get to because they're outside of the hours of Oak Ridge Transit operation. You know, think about all the things you do on Sundays and evenings that people who have to use Oak Ridge Transit are isolated from using. So anyhow, my main points that I wanted to make tonight: when we started meeting with Mark Watson several years ago, he called in Ethra to meet with us because we had noticed that a lot of the contract stipulations were not being honored by Ethra. So we were trying to hold them to account for what they had contracted to do. And for a while, things improved dramatically. But gradually, without oversight, things start to slip. For instance, I tried to schedule a ride on Good Friday for the following Monday, where I was supposed to chair the Disability Advisory Board. There was nobody in Ethra on that Friday to take calls because it was an Ethra holiday, but not an Oak Ridge Transit holiday. So there are lots of things like that there is oversight needed in a way for citizens to easily get in touch with somebody on staff of the city to lodge complaints or to provide feedback. And I think that alone would dramatically increase the level of service that Oak Ridge Transit could provide to the riders, as well as having information on the city website, telling people what the contract, what they should expect, as far as hours, and if they're not meeting the obligations, who to contact in the city to provide that feedback.
Thank you, Ms. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
I'd like to ask a question of Ms. Nicholas and Ms. Jones. I know it was hard for you to get here tonight, and I'm curious to know how you managed. So it probably took an army, or not a true army, but the size of an army to get you transported, and I admire the effort that folks went through.
My name is James Lewis. I live in
Mr. Lewis,
Oak Park.
We'll respond to Ms. Smith, and then we'll get right to you,
Yeah.
sir, okay? Thank you.
How did you get here tonight?
How did I get here tonight? I have a friend who purchased a minivan for me.
Wow.
And it has a ramp on it, so I'm going to have increased mobility in the near future. But I use that van.
Well,
Not everybody has a friend like
Right,
that.
I'm glad to hear that, but as you say, it's not a solution for everybody. Thank you.
My friend
Yeah. Thankful for those friends. That's all. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
My name is James Lewis. I live at 402 Virginia Drive. I'm here on the part of supporting Margaret and others. And it's the question you asked. I've been part of that army that helps to get her out. There are others here in this community that do not have the privilege or the support system that some of the more privileged people that you've heard. There are a number of people in this city that suffer in silence who are disabled. If you do not walk your spaces, pound the beach, you do not know what is going on. They don't have the voices. They don't have the support. I ask that we help and spend some time in understanding the needs and the capacity that is needed. I have talked with a few people. We talk about having 2 vans. A third one sits as a backup. If you don't have the capacity, even if you improve the system, you need to be thinking about in a contract, how do you increase the capacity to support a group of people that you're not even aware that's out there? So I think some effort needs to be made to try to find those who are suffering in silence. Something as simple as a ramp. I know a lady that could not get her child to the doctor. And as a part of the system, if you don't have a ramp in your house, they can't come and get you, they can't move you if it's down a few steps. I can take a ramp and move a lawnmower. And for you to come and visit me and you can't get a lady with a child that's basically a paraplegic, I think you need to look at these things and incorporate those things into the types of contract. So whoever you assign, if you do assign, please listen to the people. Listen to those that are suffering in silence.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address council on this issue? All right, the motion and comments by council. Mr. Hammond.
Yes, a couple of quick thoughts. One, really echoing Councilwoman Smith, I want to say thank you for those who pressed your way to be here. Your conversation was a valuable part of the input, as you were noticing. And even if you think there's information with regards to data and statistics, I'm sure you can appreciate the value of a face and a voice and a story that contributes to the conversation here. So I just want to say thank you so much because what you've brought has been a significant contribution to the work that we have to do on your behalf. And so thank you so much for that. I had a curiosity question. I was wondering, but when it came up, I was like, I'm going to ask, as best you know, what are the hours of operation currently for Ethra?
8 to 5.
I was hoping a city staff would be able to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to go with 8 to 5.
See, that's it. Guys.
So something that we did include in the RFP were expanded hours. And those were included, and our cost rate was per unit, so per one-way trip. And we will be discussing potential for Sunday services, although those were not included in Ethra's response.
Okay. One other thing that came up, I mean, it was a consistent theme. I'll just summarize it in this concept of city oversight, if you will, of the project. If you don't mind, we're looking at sort of what we're expecting Ethra to do different as part of these negotiation contracts and spaces. Has there been conversation about what we might do different to make sure that those things are done or followed up with? Oversight strategies, if you will, Marion?
I will say the oversight strategy is right here. And to be honest, I would hope that people would think if the manager's office really cares about this, it'll get done. Kendall and I have been involved with this since the moment I came, and our intention would be not to let it go to another department, but to keep it in the manager's office and to monitor it. So that is our thought right now.
Okay, thank you. What about the thought that came up, and you don't have this necessarily speak to it now if you're not necessarily prepared, but I'm interested in that concept of incentivizing various aspects of the performance and the work as part of the contract? Is that something that's historically done, or is that possible, or can you touch on that?
It's actually something that came up during our discussion, and we did put it in as a potential, but that is not something typically done. But we will be having that conversation with ETHRA about that, if it can be done.
Sure. Last question, and this is with regards to how these services and what services ETHRA provides, whether it's hours, time, services, is communicated to the public. Is that currently on the website? And this may be a PR question, but how and where, as best you know, are these services communicated to citizens?
We don't have anything that lives on our website, and I think that's something I could probably work with our communication specialist to build, and would probably have as much detailed information as we could, and then also refer to ETHRA's website. But especially as we look at like public feedback mechanisms, we need to build something in.
Sure. Yeah.
Expand a little bit. So we do link out to the Oak Ridge Transit website, and I did want to add that I thought it was earlier. It actually goes till 4:30. It's not 5 p.m. So it's 8 to 4:30, and I can confirm that that Good Friday holiday is not one of the holidays that they say that they are closed for. But it's just Oak Ridge Transit has their own website off of ETHRA's site that we link to on our website.
Okay. And do we link to the main, and I don't know, I hadn't been there, I will, I was trying to grab my phone here, but the link that we have to ETHRA's website, is it a link to, like, let's say the homepage, but then a citizen may have to go and click 3 or 4 links within?
I'll double check it, but it should just be ethrapublictransit.org, and I think it's to their page on, the / Oak Ridge Transit. So it's the direct to their page, the
To their
Oak
page,
Ridge
but-
Transit featured page.
Okay, and as best you know, and you make a look at it again,
Yeah.
how difficult is their page to navigate? So if I'm going and I click on the city, it takes me to ETHRA, but I don't know how to navigate the ETHRA page, or I don't know, as best you can tell, is that,
So this page is just like a one page, and it has all, it's
So it's
very
just a single
minimal
page.
information. Yeah, but if, I'm not familiar with coming from their homepage, so if they were to Google it or something like that and start at the ETHRA homepage, it might take some layers to get to. I haven't navigated their website as often. I just have the direct link to the Oak Ridge one.
okay, I'll follow, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to the individuals who commented, and I have to agree with Councilman Dodson when I read these comments. Oversight is needed. Who do they contact? I think more public awareness is needed over the city to advertise this. Many don't have the ability to even get from their house to the vehicle. Maybe the drivers could be trained and help. Another one here is, can't make appointments and they weren't treated well. I think that, and another comment here, performance should be primary. The website information, a staff tracker for transportation, that all to me points to somebody on staff who monitors the performance of ETHRA and Oak Ridge Transit.
Mr. Hope, I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, and then Mr. Hope.
Yeah, one of the reasons that I mentioned the need to have ETHRA explain how they're going to run Oak Ridge Transit is that one of the problems we've had with Oak Ridge Transit over the years is that ETHRA did not allow it to be distinct from their own transit program. So people will call and not know who they're talking to because the same people are booking rides for Oak Ridge Transit and booking rides for ETHRA. And the policies are different, but the drivers sometimes don't know, so they'll quote a policy from ETHRA to somebody who's riding Oak Ridge Transit. I think we need a very clear, as a starting point on the contract, we need a very clear program plan for how they're managing Oak Ridge Transit that clearly distinguishes it from ETHRA. So it's not simply ETHRA with a different name, which is the way it seems to be operated now. I think this is a really, really important program for the city, and it frustrates me that we can't truly make it truly better, but the issue, frankly, is money. I don't hear a commitment in the in this city yet to spend the kind of money that a truly comprehensive transit program of this nature would cost us. But it's, I think there would be a lot of heartburn about the kind of money we would have to spend to make this the sort of program it needs to be, and that's holding things back. With respect to the this contract, Councilman Hammond mentioned the need to know, the need for council to know what's going into the contract before it's finalized. So I'd like to see if we can amend the resolution to ask for a report to council before the contract is finalized with some sort of ratification by council. I don't know how to word that legally. That's what we have attorney and city clerk for, is to make sure we can word that correctly. But I'd like a provision to have a report back to council on what finally goes into this contract. I know it's not going to be nearly as good as we'd like it to be, but it's the first year of a potentially renewable contract, and hopefully we can get some big improvement in this one with the possibility of continuing improvement as we go. As ETHRA, I think, has heard that we have a problem, and maybe we can get them to improve their service for us. But I'm proposing an amendment, but I don't have the wording for the amendment.
That's a second. I mean, does that need a second?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Second the amendment that isn't written yet.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
That's how.
I think Ms. Rackard's
Yeah.
working on that.
Looking at it. Okay.
Yeah.
While we're waiting on that, let me ask this question. Just in terms of time frame, the current contract expires on June 30th.
June 30th. Right. So that's the only thing that concerns me with the timing is current contract ends June 30th. New contract would need to be in effect July 1st for there to be a continuation of services.
That's where I'm going. I mean, I think we need to have a discussion this week in terms of at least a 30-day or 60-day extension of the current contract. I think. What?
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Wait a minute, what'd you say, Ms. Teeman?
that it would need to be approved.
I
Yeah.
understand that, but I don't think coming back to council, y'all won't be able to negotiate this in one setting, will you? I mean, if history teaches anything, as it relates to this particular organization.
Right.
I doubt it.
I know what you're saying. Or in all honesty, absent you holding a special meeting for it, would it be negotiated and finalized by June 5th to make the council meeting for June 9th,
Well,
you know? So, do
I
you?
just don't know, I don't know what the schedules are for everybody else. I mean, it's one thing to say,
Right.
we need to do it, but there's multiple responsibilities involved here. I mean,
So, I think if you want to see the contract before it's executed and actually approve the contract, if that's where you're going with that, then we wouldn't necessarily need language for the city manager to submit a report to you, because he would be obviously submitting a report to let you know what's in the contract and you would see it. So we could do that the manager, in the be it further resolved, that is authorized to negotiate additional terms, add on the end that would say, said contract to be brought to city council for final approval. And if needed, which I think it will be needed, the current contract with ETHRA is authorized to be extended for up to 30 days, 60 days.
I mean, whatever, I mean,
Right.
whatever you
I
think.
mean, you could
can.
always go further and we wouldn't
Well,
take it further than
well, it takes
necessary.
two- It takes two to agree, so it
Right.
depends on what they will agree to.
I think 90 days would be reasonable in that regard.
Okay. Does that work if we put that in that, be it further resolved, where the city manager is authorized to negotiate additional terms of the contract for the public input that was received during tonight's meeting, and to bring that contract back to city council for final approval, semicolon. And the current contract with Ethra is authorized to be extended up to 90 days as necessary.
Yes.
Okay.
Good.
That's
I
already been
move.
It's been moved and seconded already.
Councilman Hammond seconded, so.
Right, so if the original motion and the seconder, if that's what you, then we're good. Does that work?
All right, Mr. Hope, you've been waiting patiently here, so,
Do we need to move on her motion?
we'll,
Okay.
I'm gonna let you speak before we.
So a couple things, Kendall, there's a couple things. One, like other fellow council members have said tonight, and as the audience has so eloquently put it as well, life happens outside of 8 to 4:30, okay? Monday through Friday. There's a lot of life, there's a lot of things that happen, so extended hours and/or extended days of operation would be critical and part of the negotiation process, because there are things that happen outside of the normal 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. The other issue that I want to raise is that most on council understand how I do not like long-term contracts. I know this is a one-year contract with 9 optional years. My concern, or my thing that I would raise to you all as staff and city manager negotiates this, is what type of review process each year are we going to have? And do you determine if that contract is being met? And if it is, fine. If it is not, what is our options and how do we go about fixing it? Because as we get feedback on any contract, this being a new contract, and this thing starts to develop throughout the year, as we see things happen, and as the users use this service, are we going to be able to go back to Ethra and say, look, this isn't working, this is working, how do we change that? How does that renegotiate the contract? Does it change the monetary value of this contract, or is it just changing the services parameter? I'd like to make sure that we caution ourselves in doing that, and that there's some type of clawback from our side that we can negotiate that with.
Okay. All right, other comments before we move on the motion? Second, let's see, Mr. Dodson, you got something else?
Yes, sir. So, after listening to the audience and some of their concerns this evening, I realize we're moving forward with the contract and we have some things that we need to consider with that. After the contract, I still seem to hear from our audience members that we need some accountability on city staff. Now, just listening to Mr. Heeman and Ms. Moore, I believe you all would prefer to handle this internally in the city manager's office and have a dedicated person with regards to that, if I'm not mistaken. Does that sound about right?
Yes, the two of us would monitor this.
Okay. So with regard to that, I'm going to pull some language from their recommendations that they sent out today. Rather than budget a new staff member to do this, I would allocate or assign sufficient time and support to an appropriate and qualified city employee to seek, receive, and evaluate performance data from the provider, prepare monthly reports, and attend the Disability Advisory Board meetings if requested to attend contract required meetings with the provider in public. I think it's really necessary to do that, and I would even suggest a member of this city manager's office to come to our monthly work sessions with an update, because this is a very serious matter. And I think we've kind of skirted a little bit, and I don't want to see that happen. So I would like to have a little bit more accountability And I think council needs to understand some of these things with regards to where we are progressing with this situation. So again, monthly reports, attendance at the Disability Advisory Board meetings. I don't think that's too much to ask. And that will keep us in the loop as far as moving forward. And I think it will answer a lot of the questions that council members had tonight with regard to the contract, because you would be directly working with that provider. Does that make sense?
It doesn't need to be a motion.
No, it's not a motion,
It's not a
it's just
motion.
a request.
Mr. Hammond?
Yes, I'd ask Lauren, and I appreciate that in the navigation, if she didn't mind, just giving a quick shot on starting from the city's webpage, and then show if somebody is here, if somebody wants to know how to get to this on the city's webpage, how do they get to it?
So once you're at oakridgetan.gov, you go to the Services tab, and then you go to Oak Ridge Transit, and it will tell you you're leaving our website because you're going to their website, and it takes you directly to the version for Oak Ridge Transit. So the rest of it is the ETHRA website if you wanted to go through it, but this takes them directly to this page, which has the hours here, and then that 24 hours. And then this is the holidays that we were referencing earlier. And that's it, really. And this has been up for a long time. I'm sure our friends can attest to that, because that's an ETHRA survey that we have already received that data from a couple years ago. So I don't know if they're even still collecting that.
Okay. And then if there are concerns with the ETHRA transportation up to this point, has a citizen had to work? I heard some parts of that, so I just want to make sure I've got clarity, because we're talking about the oversight piece. But if a citizen has an issue with transportation, do they work that out with ETHRA, or do they work that out with the city? And if they work that out with ETHRA and they don't get necessarily the response that they need, what on our end is the expected kind of follow-up for that individual?
I don't want to speak to the full process of that, but I can always attest to that. This report of concern in the center of our homepage will always come right to me, and it will get redirected to the right people. So if you ever feel like you're at a dead end where your questions are not being answered, or if they go through ETHRA and they aren't heard. I know a lot of people go through Kendall with some of the concerns currently, but there's always that option where people in the city can report any kind of concern, question, request right here on our homepage. It's just center of the website. It just says report a concern. And
Okay.
just fill out the form.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
All right. Would you restate the motion? It's
Sure.
been made and seconded.
So you have an amendment that is pending, and that is to add to your second be it further resolved, which is the section about the city manager being authorized to negotiate the contract, to say that, that the contract will then be brought back to city council for final approval, and then to authorize the current contract with ETHRA to be extended up to 90 days as needed. And so that is your motion that is currently on the floor, too.
That's been moved and seconded.
It's been moved and seconded.
All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. So we're now back on the resolution
As amended.
So all those, we need a motion and a second on the resolution.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. So the resolution is approved. Thank you all. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
A resolution awarding a contract to Stanzel Electric Company, Nashville, Tennessee, for services required for traffic signals and sidewalks under the Signal Timing Optimization Program and the Multimodal Access Project in an amount not to exceed $4,795,536, and approval of a $450,000 contingency applicable to all items and services for both projects.
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Flynn?
This is the two grants that I've been working on for quite a long time. One of the grants is a multimodal grant for the purpose of building sidewalks and handicap ramps, basically along the Oak Ridge Turnpike corridor. The other project is a traffic signal project. It is funded by a federal CMAQ grant, that is Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality is the acronym. And what we are doing is replacing the signal equipment in 14 intersections and tying them together with fiber links. And then we'll have a master controller in this building that will let those signals talk to each other. We've actually already done 2 of the signals, which would be the Tulane Avenue and East Division. So that will actually get us 16 new signals.
Questions for Mr. Flynn? Ms. Smith?
Yeah, this is something people have been waiting for. I know there are people in this room who've been very anxious for sidewalks on the East Turnpike. Do we have a prospect on how long it's going to take to actually do the work?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I'll be real specific there. We've allowed 550 days.
Okay.
It is the contractor's choice what sequence he builds this in. Our experience has been that there will be long delivery delays for at least 2 items in this contract, that being the mast arms and signal poles and the fiber itself. Contractor has the choice of going ahead and going to work, doing what he can. If he wants to go ahead and mobilize, he may want to get his material, and I've asked him this, and he hasn't, I've asked the question. But he has the option of actually not going to work until he has material in hand. What we experienced with the Tulane project, and I quietly did the same thing there that I'm doing here. I had 2 processes with 1 contract. It turned out to be very beneficial, because what ended up happening was the contractor started on that project, could not finish it because he didn't have the material, so he actually had to shut down and leave. So we've got 550 days for the entire project, and again, he can build it in the sequence that he sees fit.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hammond?
It's just real quick. There've been a number of projects that have done this. This is certainly one of them. So I just wanted to take a point to say I appreciate you bringing this to the Budget and Finance Committee. It did come, and we did talk about that. And I just want to acknowledge I appreciate you the way we have certain projects to go through Budget and Finance. This was really, really helpful to have that conversation, and it was enlightening for me, and it's helping me in preparation for tonight. So thank you for that. I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Okay. Just for general information, there are 2 other similar projects in Knox County. Farragut is doing this. And then there is a project also that the city of Knoxville is doing on Kingston Pike. So there's actually 3 of these going on at the same time.
Other questions, questions or comments?
Yeah, one.
Mr. Hensley?
Are those the same vendors that are doing the other ones?
I do not know.
Okay.
I know there are 3 companies that are capable, or that I would have been happy with.
It'd be nice if they were similar.
Yeah, and I don't know who the other contractors are, frankly.
Yeah.
Again, there are 3 that I would have confidence in doing this.
Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. Seven ayes, no nays, and the resolution is approved. Next resolution, Madam Clerk.
A resolution rescinding Resolution 11-118-2021 and authorizing a professional services contract with CDM Smith Incorporated, Knoxville, Tennessee, for construction, engineering, and inspection services for the congestion mitigation and air quality improvement Phase 2 in an amount not to exceed $361,800.
Move to approve.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Flynn?
This is the construction inspection, for the CMAQ portion of the contract that you just approved. The local programs and rules require that with what they call a complicated project, which CMAQ is because it has a component in it that is what they call intelligent transportation. So they require that the inspection be done by a different firm other than the design firm. Just for general information, the intelligent transportation component allows the traffic signals to actually communicate with some cars. To my knowledge, there are no American production cars that have capability, but right now I understand 2 of the upper scale European cars do have. We expect probably in the next 10 years, we'll start seeing this in American cars. So anyway, it actually has a function where the car and the signal system can communicate. So anyway, this is the inspection component. The fees for this are included in the grant, so they're recoverable.
And the reference that you made to local program rules, those are TDOT's rules. Those are not the City of Oak Ridge's rules.
No, thank you. You're correct.
You need to make that very clear.
Local programs is the office that TDOT uses to interface with municipalities.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, any other questions or comments?
Yeah,
Seeing
thank you for
none,
that.
we're on the board. The motion is to approve. Ayes 7 and no nays. The resolution is approved. Next resolution, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing an amendment to the professional services agreement with Kimley Horn and Associates Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee, for engineering services related to the multimodal access project at the Oak Ridge Turnpike and South Illinois Avenue to increase the compensation by $116,300 for a new not-to-exceed amount of $415,100.
Moved and seconded.
And this is the inspection for the multimodal portion of this project. It is not considered to be a complex project, so the designer of record can in fact do the inspection. There's a line item in Kimley Horn's contract, which I think is task 9, if I recall. They have subletted this work to Smith Seckman. They have an office here in Knoxville. They are a preferred vendor. In fact, they actually do the training for TDOT. So this will amend Kimley's contract to bring the cost for inspection up to the 2025 proposal, year 2025 proposal.
All right, and is that, any portion of that funded by TDOT?
It is, yes, the whole thing is actually. It just amends their contract, which is part of the grant.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion is approved. We're on the board. Ayes 7, no nays. The resolution is approved.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of traffic control equipment from Transportation Control Systems Incorporated, Tampa, Florida, for the Oak Ridge Signal Timing Optimization Program Project Phase 2 in an amount not to exceed $261,960.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Flynn?
These are the controllers for this project. We chose to purchase them outside the Stansel's contract. The majority of the equipment is in Stansel's contract, poles, signal heads, most of the wiring, the fiber, all of that is in their contract. We chose to buy this separately for a couple of reasons. Main reason was that we wanted it to be a proprietary product. The previous signals that I mentioned that we had done, we used this same equipment. We're getting ready to turn around and do this process on Illinois Avenue, which will be CMAQ 3. It's already under design. I will use the same product there. So we will end up with, if my math is correct, 27 signals with the same equipment in it.
Okay, questions for Mr. Flynn? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. You're on the board. Touch it again, Mr. Hensley, there you go. Ayes 7, no nays. The resolution is approved.
A resolution authorizing an amendment to Resolution 5-69-2024 for the purchase of a generator from Nixon Power Services Company, Brentwood, Tennessee, for use at the water treatment plant to increase the purchase amount by $208,365 for a new not-to-exceed amount of $1,200,000 to be purchased with Waterworks funds.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Mills?
I'll do it since I'm here. I'm already up here. We're just kind of swapping a couple of funds here. We originally would have bought the generator with SRF funds as part of the construction of the water treatment plant. Somewhere along the way, we found out that we could use ARPA. And then along the way, we managed to be about a day late and miss the deadline for ARPA. But we also found out that we could use ARPA funds to pay on the water plant. So what we are essentially doing is making a payment on the water plant and then with ARPA funds and buying that generator with SRF funds that would have originally been in the contract anyway.
All right, questions for Mr. Flynn?
This was discussed with Budget and Finance. We figured out that it made sense.
Thank you.
And we appreciate your review of it. Motion is to approve, and we're on the board. Ayes 7, no nays. The resolution is approved.
A resolution awarding a contract to PRI of East Tennessee Incorporated, Knoxville, Tennessee, for as-needed pavement repair and patching for the Public Works Department in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Okay. Second. Moved and seconded. Mr. Flynn?
This is our annual paving and patching on-call contract. It's for larger repairs that we have trouble doing in-house. It also helps us keep up. We generally use this for repairs from utility cuts. Typically, we try to do potholes and small repairs with our own people. These folks can do larger repairs. They can actually pave entire streets, but it's an on-call contract. It has basically a menu of on-demand items. If you look at the bid tab, I just simply chose a arbitrary number of items. The bid tab adds up to $54,000. We're, of course, asking for more than that. We use that through the course of the year, and we never know how much of it we need. Frankly, this year we ran out already. So, this is a very beneficial thing for us.
Mr. Hensley?
Yeah, I know this is outside what we're talking about here slightly, but I drove through the mall. I drove around in front of Walmart and around to the restaurant, back to the old post office and around through the mall. Is there any way we could get Realty Link to cough up some money and get these people to fix their streets? Because it's an absolute disaster.
Pardon me?
Codes is working on it
Yeah, that's,
as we speak. Codes is working on it.
yeah, I think they're looking at it as a property maintenance issue.
I know that, well, Wayne left, but Wayne.
No, Wayne's back there. He relocated spots, but he's back there.
Yeah.
We're seeing in the planning commission that we have sent them a letter citing violations that they might eventually get fined for. I see okay.
Yeah. It's in progress.
Okay.
Mr. Hope?
Roger, real quick on this particular contract with PRI, if they go in and do some repair, patch or repair, do you have final, or does the city have final oversight of that as far as if something's not adequate, if it's not done correctly, you go back and you go back to them and they'll redo that if need be?
We do, and they've actually done a pretty decent job.
Okay.
We're, obviously, we've used them before. They are the incumbent on this contract.
Okay.
So, yeah, we're pretty satisfied with them.
All right, great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We are on the board. Motion is to approve. Ayes 7, no nays. Resolution is approved. Next resolution, Madam Clerk.
A resolution approving the updated spending budget for the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA funding.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Flynn?
This is really just information only, since we had talked about ARPA and that generator. We thought we would just summarize what we had done. We originally came to you guys with a couple of different lists of possible items. We did several of those. There were a couple of things that we added on afterwards. That big drainage repair over on Emory Valley Road, for example, we actually ended up using ARPA for that. So this is really just a summary.
Okay. All right, so there is a resolution. Is there a motion to approve? Yes, sir. Moved and seconded. All right. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. It is approved.
You're welcome. Thank you.
That's the
Thank y'all.
end of the Mills show for the night.
A resolution authorizing an agreement with Design Innovation Architects Incorporated, Knoxville, Tennessee, for on-call architectural services in an amount not to exceed $120,000 over a 6-year period.
Move for approval. Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Pesmeyer.
So Mayor and Council, items I and J are essentially identical. This is the result of a request for qualifications that we put out to have on-call architectural services. We have a need for both small projects and large projects to do in the city, and so we wanted to make sure that we had qualified providers for that. So we had 13 firms who actually submitted qualifications for this work. We had an internal review committee to review all the qualifications. We determined to interview 7 of those firms. We asked them standard interview questions. We also had them present us a scenario. And honestly, we had some really great qualifications proposals for this work. So it was difficult, but we did need to narrow it down to 2. So we have item J. This is for Design Innovation Architects, and item J is for Clark Nexon Incorporated. And so what we are going to do through this process, and why this is before you, is we're putting together a master services agreement with each one of these to provide services for the city over a period of time. It's a 2-year contract with potentially 2 2-year extensions. So it could be potentially for 6 years, but that is to be seen how the service goes. We have a lot of small projects that come up that we just really need to have an architect to help us on, whether that be an HVAC system or just some electrical drawings or mechanical drawings related to little projects going on. We have a lot of those going on, and so what we've done is we're allocating $20,000 for each of the 2 firms per year to basically do those small projects. This would also include projects like schematic design to do scoping of projects, so that when we actually get to the point where we want to do a larger project, we kind of know what we're dealing with. A good example of this is the NRDA grants. Those grants, the full applications are due on July 15th. And we need some services to make sure that we have our grant proposal and mostly our costing and the scope identified for those grants in place. So they'll do that under the $20,000 schematic design. Obviously, it'll be a few $1,000s, not the whole amount. But then once we get to the point of being awarded those grants, we'll have a much larger contract, and then we'll bring that back to council for your approval. So essentially, that is what we're doing with both of these. We are excited to generate a relationship with each of these firms so that we can have services as we need them as it comes up.
All right, so there is a motion and second on item I.
Comment.
Mr. Hensley.
At the plants we used to, in engineering, we call them basic ordering agreements. And they're really come in handy, because what they do is you get a peak load demanding a lot of people. They level that peak out. They come in when needed. I think that's a great idea.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or questions for Mr. Pesmeyer? We're on item resolution I. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. The next resolution, which has also been discussed, is item J. I need a motion and a second on it. Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Mr. Pesmeyer's done a good job explaining it. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. Thank you, Mr. Pesmeyer. All right, next item.
A resolution authorizing an agreement with Davenport and Company LLC, Nashville, Tennessee, for municipal financial services in an amount not to exceed $125,000 over a 5-year period.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Yes, sir.
So this is a personal services agreement. This is, again, a result of a request for qualifications. We also asked for a price along with that. We had 4 firms who responded to the qualification. We ended up doing 3 interviews for these. We were fortunate to have Counselor Smith join us on the selection committee. And essentially, as we were going through the process, we're really only planning on hiring 1 firm. But as we looked at the different qualifications of the 2 firms, we recognized that 1 firm was very strong in being able to do your financial analysis and reporting and give us really good data to make selections on essentially debt obligations is really what we're talking about here. And we'll get to it in the next item, but we also found that the other firm was really good at actually issuing those debt
Yes.
requirements. So once we got into it, we recognized that we probably wanted to break those services out, and with the agreement of both of the firms, that's essentially what we're doing. You'll see there's significantly different amounts between the 2, but and that's just simply because when you're issuing debt, we'll be coming back to council with each of those issuances to get those approved. But for the Davenport, that will be an ongoing yearly amount that we're expecting to expend for that. So again, it'll be a master services agreement, which we will then get scope and fee for particular projects as necessary as they come forward. Both the firms did great in the interviews, and we were glad to have it. It's something that we really need to do to make sure that we're getting the best advice, that we're making sure that we have a good fiscal health for the city, that we're identifying our debt and credit, and making sure that all of our debt policies are up to date as we move forward. So we're excited about having these services, and I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Pesmeyer? We're on Resolution K. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. Resolution K is approved. Resolution L has already been explained by Mr. Pesmeyer. Are there any additional questions or comments on L?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. So that brings us to item M.
A resolution transferring the 770 request made to the U.S. Department of Energy for parcel 1.44.1, now encompassed in parcel 1.57 at the East Tennessee Technology Park, from the Industrial Development Board of the City of Oak Ridge, Tennessee, to the City of Oak Ridge.
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Pesmeyer?
Yeah, so this is really pretty straightforward. So if you take a look at the map, which I sent you earlier and I think was handed out, you'll see this is really just some small parcels that are in the Heritage Center or the East Tennessee Technology Park. And essentially, the lot 1.55.2 is something that's going to be transferred to the city of Oak Ridge. It made sense to actually transfer the other properties adjacent to it to the city. The IDB had made a request for those properties, and so we're just kind of cleaning things up. The IDB has already approved the documents necessary to transfer that request from the IDB to the city of Oak Ridge, and so we're just trying to clean that up and make sure that we end up with contiguous property out there that we can market and sell.
All right. Questions or comments? Seeing none, the motion is to approve. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? There are none. Thank you, sir. Next item of business, Madam Clerk, appearance of citizens.
Yes, sir.
Citizens should be permitted to address City Council about matters that are not on the formal agenda tonight. Any citizen wishing to do so shall raise your hand, proceed to the lectern, and after recognition, state your name and address and the purpose of your appearance before council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes and shall relate to matters of city business, shall not generally result in a formal response or action tonight, but because in some cases, neither council nor staff will be prepared to respond effectively. However, we may attempt to answer the questions or direct the city manager to do so, or the city manager may be requested to work with the citizen to effect resolution of the particular matter. Statements that are purely political in nature will not be allowed, such as campaign speeches or announcements of candidacy for office, nor will announcements of a civic or social event that is unrelated to city business. Are there any members of the audience wishing to address council? Seeing none. Elections, appointments, announcements, and scheduling. We have any? Okay. Council requests for new business items or future briefings. Seeing none, we are on the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be brief tonight. As you'll see, we have a graduation celebration scheduled for the new event, the Recreation Center, Friday night. And that is, I think, something we've done annually. We had our conference center ribbon cutting. I want to thank everybody that attended there. And we will have, just for your knowledge, a second celebration when we name, when we officially name the main room for Edwina Crowe, and we're working on sufficient plaque to memorialize that. Okay. The Rowing Association, we had the SEC tournament. You can see there's somebody down there in the bottom left that got their picture taken at that event. I will say he does a great job. He let me hold one of the trophies a few weeks ago and hand it to somebody, but does a great job making sure everybody celebrates their victories out there. Also want to say the electric department was involved in that. I had somebody ask me one day, well, you know, how much do you spend on tourism? And there's an awful lot of things that we do for tourism that's a team effort here, where we go out and do things, whether it's putting up banners or putting out temporary power for events, or cleaning up after events, or cleaning up before events. So our team does a great job helping Katie and others do events. You'll see some not so great news. I'm glad it's not the headline, but the pool is going to open up late this summer. We did have some unforeseen repairs. We had, I think John said it was a 12-inch line that broke, and I think we had an issue with a pump. The good news is we were able to find a pump, and it was actually less than we thought it would be, but it's going to take time to get that in, to get the water circulated, and then also to train the lifeguards. So as soon as we have a date, we will get that out, but it will not be open as we would have expected this year. Courtroom demolition work, 95% complete. I went in the other day and they were starting to rebuild the dais in front, so it's coming along real well. We have our law enforcement memorial service. It was mentioned earlier at 9 a.m. at AK Bissell Park. Brush pickup is underway. And we did have a second in-person meeting for the comprehensive plan, very well attended, over 100 citizens. We've gathered a lot of good information. As soon as that consultant is ready, we're going to get that information out in front of you so that you'll know kind of what we've heard from the citizens. Also, a pinning ceremony, May 22nd, 5:30 to 7:30 at the new conference center. This is where we celebrate our new fire recruits that have completed their Fire Commission Firefighter 1 certification. So I hope you can join us for that. Finally, want to recognize Lieutenant Shanna Newman for completing the Administrative Officers course in Louisville. and the Southern Police Institute. She has continued to move up in the ranks and does a great job for us. We have over 100 students that applied for internship program. You'll remember in your strategic plan, grow the internship program. I can officially say it's grown. So we're looking forward to getting our students in and involved, and I will tell you that they will be doing meaningful work for us. Also want to say there's a picture on the bottom right there of Shadori and Roger. Shadori was an intern with us for 2 years and did a great job. She's graduating from UT May 17th with her engineering degree, and is going to be working for a local consulting firm there, so we appreciate her work. Finally, some new city employees. You'll see our finance director there, new shelter attendant John, Lauren Neal in Parks and Rec, Lucas in Fleet, Jaden in maintenance technician, and Jack, a parks technician. And I think we had a few promoted employees. Robert Randolph, street and fleet maintenance manager. You'll recall Mike Miller retired recently. Nathan Gibson, police lieutenant, and Stephen Romaine, police sergeant. And if you look down there on the very bottom, you'll see our retired fleet manager, Mike Miller, who retired this month after 30 years of service. And you can see he has a few more gray hairs than he had when he started. And I think that's it, if you've got any questions.
Questions for the manager, Mr. Hanson?
Yeah, I was driving home on Melton Lake Drive on Sunday evening at about 9:30 p.m. And there were white trucks out there cleaning up the Rowan area. Were those city employees out there cleaning up the Rowan area?
If they were white trucks, I would expect so.
Yes. That was impressive when I.
All right, any other comments, questions? Madam Law Director, you have any comments or report? Okay. Thank you for everyone's attendance and participation tonight, and we are adjourned.
Me and Amy and Randy. Still got some time to be done